want to cause panic. That's not the point of this program. The point of this program is to show us, myself included, how we can be prepared at a moment's notice to prepare meals that we like using pantry items that we have or that we acquire. But it also is another way of budgeting our food costs and making sure that we're using what we have, we're rotating our stocks and all of that. We're all busy. We're all people that have lives that sometimes do not afford a lot of time to prepare a meal, or maybe you're gone and someone else needs to step in and cook the meal. And that's kind of what today is about. Yes, it is about preparing and planning, but it's also about those situations that make life easier. I know for many of you, myself included, the what's for dinner question is a daily thing. It's you know, it's like, oh my goodness, it's 5 o'clock. What am I gonna fix for dinner? Or, you know, whatever the question may be. Maybe your family's asking you 5 times a day, what are we eating for dinner? What are we eating for dinner? Everybody's situation's a little different. Now, I've done programs in the past on how to meal plan, and I'm a big meal planner, and I find that when I don't do that is when the, oh, what am I gonna fix for dinner kind of thing pops up. But when I make a plan, using what I have and what's on sale and that kind of thing, life goes so much simpler when it comes to that part of things. And by planning, you also can make your list as you plan and know what you need to get at the store. Well, I'm gonna make life a little simpler for us by showing you how you can spend a few minutes one day a week or once a month, however you wanna do it, and prep and plan and get ahead on all the meals for the week or the month or whatever, however long you want to stretch this out. But I'm also showing you meals that you can grab in a hurry, that, you know, use minimal ingredients and that are pantry staple ingredients. That's the key, using things that we can store long term, but also that are ready to go in the next 3 to 6 months when we're ready to cook it. So that's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna show you a couple of different ways of doing this. We're gonna start out by doing meals in a jar. This would make a great gift for someone. Maybe you wanna take a meal to someone, or at least the ingredients and a recipe with the instructions to someone that may be shut in or for whatever reason can't get out to the store. Whatever the reason would be that you want to gift a meal to someone. And that's what we're going to start with today. But I do want to show you a couple of things that are really, really handy to have. They're not absolutely necessary, but they're very handy to have. And that is the little containers that I have here in front of me. I have different sizes from small to the big, the bigger, you know, the soup size containers. These are like deli containers. They're completely reusable. You can wash them and reuse, but they're very handy to have when you are meal planning and prepping and getting everything together. Very handy to have. Something I would also encourage you to have is a manual can opener. How many times do we use this in a day? I would get the old-fashioned kind, the swing line type that does this. Now, I prefer the one that's on top that leaves the edge smoother, but not everybody knows how to use those. And I find that if you're, if you just are depending, maybe somebody needs to grab at one of these kits and cook it, they might not know how to use that. So I would encourage you to have one of these also. We won't be using that today. I just wanted to show you. Now, for meals in a jar, now this is one of those you could completely just put this in a Ziploc baggie and contain it. But I want to show you something a little different. I have here a clean quart size, I like wide mouth jars, and a clean unused flap and lid. The lids, the little rings, you can reuse. These, once they're sealed, you cannot. Now, we're gonna make, and I have here for you the recipes with the instructions of what is in here as well as when it comes time to serve. So the first thing we're gonna do is put in the bottom, this first one's going to be chili in a jar. We're gonna put 2 tablespoons of chili powder in the bottom. We're gonna layer it. It's gonna look really, really pretty. There's 1, there's 2, a little shy of 2, so let's put an extra little bit in there. We're gonna add some cumin, which is a really good, warm, earthy spice. Here's another little hint for you. Smell your spices. If they don't have much aroma, they're not gonna have much flavor. They don't last forever. They do last a long time, but not forever. And we want about 1 tablespoon of ground cumin. Now for these type meals, you want to use all dried spices. Don't be bringing in any fresh in your jar. We want a couple of teaspoons of oregano. Yes, chili and a lot of Mexican restaurant or recipes and Tex-Mex use oregano. You can get Mexican oregano, you can get Greek oregano, you can, whatever kind of oregano you have is fine. Then we want to put a teaspoon of salt and about half a teaspoon of freshly ground pepper. You've heard me say this before, don't buy that canister of pre-ground pepper. Get yourself a pepper mill or one of the little pepper grinders that they sell on the spice shelf with the peppercorns in it. You want to elevate your cooking. Switch away from the pre-ground pepper and grind your own fresh. They're world of difference in the flavor. Then we want some dried garlic, and I think here it is. Garlic powder's fine for this. This is a new container. Now for me, I always get rid of that little shaker. I hate those things. I always just either pour it into my hand or into the measuring cup because I can't stand those little shakers. But you do what you like. You want about, I don't know, a tablespoon or so, depending on how much garlic you like. I like a lot of garlic. All right. Then another ingredient that I find extremely helpful to have on hand is the beef bouillon. I love these. They're not expensive at all. And I love to have the loose, granular beef bouillon as opposed to bouillon cubes. Now, if bouillon cubes is all you have, by all means, just put a couple or 3 cubes in here. But when you run out and you need to buy more, I really encourage you to get the bouillon granules. You can find this in the spice section, but you also will find it a lot of times with the soups or in the Mexican aisle where you find your taco shells and things like that. You'll find a lot of these ingredients. You want about 3 tablespoons of this. So 1, 2, 3. One of my favorite ingredients. Oh, it smells so good. Then you're gonna want some dried onion. Remember, we are doing shelf-stable ingredients. You want about half a cup. So I have here a 1/4 cup measure, so I'm gonna do 2 of these. And I'm gonna make a mess in the process, which is okay. We do that, it's allowed. And then we need some beans. You can use whatever kind you like. I personally like black beans and kidney beans in my chili, but if you want to use pintos, use whatever kind you like. I have just 1 pound here. You want about a cup, so probably about half, maybe a little more. It's subjective, however much bean you want. And then some black beans. And if you wanted to add another layer of pinto beans, you can. That's fine. You do what you like. Okay? And then put your lid on it. Now, here's where you can, if you have, let me get that out of my way before I spill them. If you have a food saver that has the attachment that I've shown you how to use before, where you plug this in, you take the ring off. You don't have the ring on there. You have the flap, and you put this on and you seal it. You can keep this for, oh my goodness, a couple of years. But if you don't want to, you know, seal it, or you're going to just, your meal planning, just, you know, put the lid and the flap on there and keep it to the side. Now, to serve this, you're going to, I'm not going to actually cook it today, but I'm going to show you how to store it. You're going to need a can of tomatoes, tomato sauce, diced tomato, fire roasted, whatever you like, whatever you have on hand. You're going to need, what I like to do is take my ingredients, put them together in a storage bag along with the instructions. Down here at the bottom you will find, and this will all be on the Facebook page for you, you will find the ingredients. This is an Instant Pot recipe, so you just literally brown your ground beef and dump it in your Instant Pot. Cook it on high pressure for about 45 minutes or so. But it will tell you, to serve this, you're going to need to add a 1 pound package of ground beef. Now, if you have home canned ground beef, which I do at home, I just take raw ground beef and I pressure can it in little pint-sized jars. I would just put a pint-sized jar right in here with it. But if you don't have that and you just have the fresh ground beef or frozen ground beef, you'll see on your ingredients that you need that. I would put this right inside the baggie and then set this on your pantry. And once you have a supply of these recipes, you can just go to your pantry and say, okay, I have all the ingredients I need to cook chili, but what I need is some ground beef. I have it on here. What I would do when I shop for that ingredient, I would package that ground beef in a separate package, and I would take a Sharpie and write on it for chili. So that way you know it's not used. You'll also need some water. And so when you have enough of these on your shelf, all you need to do is go pick one out and you've got a meal ready to go. So let's make another one. This one is going to be white beans. Now I'm using Great Northern, but if you have cannellini, you can use cannellini beans. That would be fine. We're just gonna put, I'm gonna use the whole cup here because I need a couple of cups, because I'm only using white beans. You can use navy, you can use cannellini, whatever you have. Now here is another ingredient that I like to have on hand, and that is dried tomatoes. You can buy the sun-dried tomatoes that are hard. Don't get the ones that are soft or pliable in the bag. That's not for long-term storage like I'm talking about, or the ones packed in oil. So you will want the dehydrated or dried tomatoes. You can find this in many, many bulk stores. You can also find it online on Amazon. Very easy and very handy to have. You want about 1/3 cup of these. They smell so good, and this will store for a very long time. All right? We want to have some more of these dried onions, about 1/4 cup or so of your dried onions. You want to have some garlic powder, again, about 1 teaspoon. These are all pantry items. The spices are that we would have in our pantry. All right, some oregano, which makes it taste so good. About 1 teaspoon, a tablespoon, actually. I like oregano. I'm gonna put 2 teaspoons. You can use 1 or 2 teaspoons or a tablespoon. You want about 2 or 3 teaspoons of paprika. It does add some flavor, and it also adds some color. Some salt. All right, a couple of teaspoons of salt, and about 1/2 teaspoon or so of pepper, and some chicken bouillon. Same thing as our beef, only it's chicken. This whole thing, I think, is like $5, and you know how much chicken stock you can make with this? So you want about 3 tablespoons of the chicken broth. 1, 2, 3. Okay? And there you go. You've got, and not only, you know, is this convenient and ready to go? Look how pretty it is. Again, you can vacuum seal the lid with your food saver if you have that attachment. If you don't have that attachment, then, you know, it's fine to leave it right here. I would either put it in a bag and put your recipe down in there with it. Make copies of these so you'll have them for the future. Or you can just tape this on top. And if you don't want to do that and you have a binder, take a Sharpie and write on here white beans and date it. So this would be, so that you know. Now, in here, just hand tightened, this is good for probably, I would say, a year. This can sit on your shelf, and you can just keep the recipe with it or keep this in a binder. Just make sure you keep the recipe. And there you go. There's a couple of quick and easy meals that you can have ready to go in an instant in your pantry any day of the week. I'm gonna take a quick little break, reset my stuff, and I'm gonna show you a couple more recipes that you can make not using a jar. I'll be back in just a second. Alrighty, now we are back and we're gonna make a couple more recipes that we can have stored ahead. The first one we're gonna make is a muffin mix, and I just have a Ziploc bag. Now this one, you can do two ways. Let me write my, you're gonna make 12, and I'm gonna date it. And you can either do this in a bag that you can food saver. I'm losing my words here. You can vacuum seal it, or you can, if you're just prepping for maybe a little bit shorter time, just put it in a Ziploc bag. It'll keep, you know, on your pantry shelf for 6 months or so. We need a couple of cups of all-purpose flour. I just have a Ziploc baggie here. I'm just putting everything right in here together. And I've got my recipe here. We're gonna need some sugar. We're gonna need 3/4 of a cup of sugar. So let me get my 1/4 cup scoop, and I'm gonna do 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. Now this is when you wanna make something sweet. I mean, we wanna have muffins and cookies and things like that sometimes. Here's another ingredient that is really handy to have in your pantry, and that is dried milk. You know, I remember when the issue we've all been dealing with hit, you could not find dry milk on the shelves. So this is something that I do keep in my pantry. It's great for baking and cooking and things like that, as well as you can make milk out of it, obviously. So we're gonna need about 1/3 of a cup of that. That's 1/4, let's do 1/3. Great shelf-stable ingredient. Now, I ordered mine in bulk, but you can also get it, I've got some over there, just in little individual packets. If that's what you have, that's fine too. You wanna have some salt. Oh, about a teaspoon or so of salt, because you do need salt in your cooking. And then here's another ingredient that is a nice thing to have on hand for things like this, and that's powdered eggs. You can find them online. They're very, very easy. And you want a couple of tablespoons of the powdered egg. Great, great item to have in your pantry. You'll find you use it a lot in cooking like what I'm talking about here. Then you need some baking powder. Make sure your baking powder is fresh. you know, if it's been sitting in your pantry for a couple of years, even 6 months open, you need to get a new can. It's not expensive, it does not last forever. So make sure that you get a fresh one. 2 teaspoons of that. Did you know, by the way, that that's what that little lip is for on your, that way you can just get an exact measurement. That's what that's for. All right, now we're gonna mix this all together. We're gonna keep it in our little baggie. I'm gonna seal it. I'm gonna get out as much air as I can. You can do that by rolling up your bag and then sealing it off. Or you could take a straw and go down in the side and suck out all of the air. Now, this is a basic mix. You can, depending on how you want to do it, you can make it chocolate chip. You could make it blueberry by using dried blueberries. So what I like to do is take my mix, put it in here, and I want to put some chocolate chips in there and some dried blueberries because I don't know what flavor I'm going to want that day. And I'm going to take the recipe and put in there. That way, you have, at the drop of a hat, a baggie that's ready to go. And if you wanted to, you could even put your little muffin liners down in there so that you know you have them when you're ready to cook. I find that's a handy thing to do. Put all that, set that on your shelf, and one morning if you want muffins, there you go. You've got it ready to go. The only extra item that you will need for that is water. That's it, and it says that on the instructions. Let's do one more real quick. I'm gonna make some coconut pancakes. I adore coconut. That's one of my most favorite flavors of anything. If you want to use your bag, I'll tell you a good little hint is just fold it down. A lot of times it'll stand up on its own like that. I've got a fan back here, so mine won't. So I'm gonna put it down in my little thing to hold it. All right, we're gonna need another couple of cups of flour. All right, this is gonna be pancake mix, coconut pancake mix. This is a 1/2 cup measure that I keep in my flour specifically for this purpose. We're gonna need 1/2 cup of sugar. So let's get our 1/2 cup measure spoon. All right. A teaspoon of salt. 3 teaspoons of baking powder. And 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Okay. Now, combine all of this together. Do the same thing of what we just did. All right. And then in another baggie, I like the 2-gallon bags for some things, but you can use just another one if you want to. Go ahead and put your bag down in there and some, I prefer unsweetened coconut. It's up to you. You're gonna want about 1 cup. That's about what's left in that bag, so I'm just gonna put the whole baggie in there. Now, when you're cooking, I would just slide this down in. You could, tape it or staple it, but it might get, torn off. So put that down in there. These are pancakes, so when it's time to serve, you will need some vanilla extract and some coconut extract. And I believe I left out, no, I didn't. I don't think I did. Let me make sure. Nope, not on this one. All right. You will need some coconut extract if you have it. If you don't worry about it. Some vanilla extract and some water, and then, butter or whatever you're going to cook it with. Now, to serve those, you could serve it with maple syrup, of course, or you could serve it with a fruit compote would be delicious. Any kind of topping, whipped cream would be delicious, maybe just some whipped cream and some strawberries or fruit of some sort, or on their own. They're delicious. These are coconut pancakes. They're very, very flavorful and absolutely delicious. So here you go. Here are 4 easy recipes that you can make ahead and have on your pantry shelf. Lots of goodies that you can cook in a moment's notice. These two are Instant Pot recipes. Obviously, if you wanted to cook them on the stove, if you don't have an Instant Pot, you can. You know, you would need to cook it for a little bit longer. Bring it up to a boil and then turn it down, let it simmer for a couple of hours, or 2 to 3 hours until your beans are tender, or you could do it in the Instant Pot. Here's some muffins and some pancakes ready for you at a moment's notice. Thank you for joining with me. We're gonna do some more, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Manna.
I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me.
There's nothing, neither height nor depth, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things past or present, or things to come, neither nakedness nor peril, or sword or famine. There's nothing now that can separate us from the love of God that we have found in Christ Jesus.
Because of your faithful monthly gifts to Living Faith TV. The gospel is reaching into prisons and hospitals